look, they won by 8. It was actually kind of a closer game statistically, except
the second half was just awful. It was just an ugly second half for both teams, in my opinion.
Desmond Ridder threw some bad interceptions.
Yeah.
Comes down to.
That's what the difference was.
And the defense for the Commanders made plays. Howell took care of the ball. He was sacked 5 times, but he had, touchdown passes to his running backs.
Special teams was big.
Yeah, Jamison Crowder made a play.
That was huge.
And all of a sudden, you look at the team, and they're 3-3. The sky was falling at 2-3, but they're 3-3 now.
Yep.
They're actually only one game behind where I thought they'd be. Because I thought they'd lose the Bills. I thought they'd lose the Eagles. No, the games didn't play out the way I thought. Each particular one was unique. But the game that's going to haunt them they'll never stop haunting them is that Bears
game, right?
So I'm not surprised they beat Atlanta. I thought they would do it. They did exactly what I thought they'd do, which is obvious.
They did get back on the defensive front, which was good.
They play better, but it's just like force Ritter to beat you. They contain the run. Bijan Robinson had an average day, very average. And Ritter couldn't beat you over 60 minutes.
Yeah, Ritter made some really bad decisions. And then what's going on with their coaching staff not getting plays in on time? What are they doing? They spike the ball, and they still don't get the ball
their head
or the
coach
play in
is
time.
Hilarious to watch on the sideline.
What are they doing?
I don't know.
If I was a Falcons fan, man, I'd be pissed.
It's just I hate to quote Ron, but it's like attention to detail.
Those
details have got to be tightened up at the professional level.
That should never, ever happen.
And I also didn't like the going for 2. I don't care what the chart says. That's stupid. So, whatever. Thank God for their buffoonery and their incompetence. We played far from a stellar game. Obviously, we all know that fourth quarter was kind of a disaster. Other than defensively, they made some big plays.
Yep.
But, hey, got the dub, and I thought
they'd
get the dub.
It's all about getting the dub, man. That's what it comes down to.
Got to win on the road.
Yep.
Despite the fact that she didn't even total 200 yards of offense, right?
Well, because they barely had the ball.
They didn't have the ball much.
I think in the second half,
they had 4 straight punts.
I think we ran like 12 plays in the second half, and they had like 40 plays.
Yeah.
There was a period of time there where I thought Bieniemy really called a great game. I didn't like at the end of the half dropping Sam back like that, and just allowing his weakness to be exploited there to be sacked. And then I didn't really love the way it was so obvious what they were doing. I mean, I know you got to run the ball, you got to air out the clock, but I just didn't like the play calling.
They were just trying
to
kill some clock there.
Yeah, but they just got to be better at it. You got to get some first downs.
I mean, on the first possession was after the first pick of the second half. They ran 2 plays. That was the screen there to Robinson. Then they had, I think, 4 or 5 plays punt, 4 plays punt, 3 plays punt, 3 plays punt. So they just weren't out there. The offense wasn't out there.
We'll do our Hal eval officially at 6:45, but you mentioned Bieniemy. I think at times he does Howell a disservice. On one of the dropbacks where he got sacked. I can't remember exactly the distance, but it was 3rd and long. Not 3rd and like 8. It was 3rd and long. And all his receivers were running like deep routes. And I heard one of the analysts, it might have been on this game or a different game, point out, based on like your positioning and based on where you're on the field, very unlikely to convert like a 3rd and 20. And if you're lined up for a position where you're already in field goal range, you could just run the ball.
Just gain a few extra yards, make it a little closer.
Deep drop where you got to wait a few seconds for guys to get open 25 yards downfield, and it's unlikely to be a play that you connect on. It just makes you susceptible to being sacked.
Yeah,
now, I think, he runs into sacks too.
But I think Bieniemy gets a little over-aggressive at times.
Yeah.
I would agree.
It is amazing. I really like Hal. I think he can do this job. I think he'll be here. I'm encouraged every week. But it is incredible that he just doesn't have a sense of some guys that run right past him, and then he runs right back into them. You know what I mean? There are certain guys around him. He just doesn't feel them.
Right.
Well, I'll tell you this, not to get on a total tangent. I don't know if you happen to watch any of Malik Willis.
Yes.
So Malik Willis came in for Ryan Tannehill, and I tweeted this out at GlassJoeJP if you want to give me a follow. If he dropped back 40 times, he would be sacked 20 times.
Yeah, I would agree.
If you think Sam Howell doesn't have pocket presence, multiply that times 100, and that's Malik Willis when he drops back.
Yeah, I know. And the guys calling the game, it was Eisen and Kurt Warner, right? He's just saying, all right, he just has to know he's got to get rid of the ball or he's got to step up in the pocket and run. And he just wouldn't.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
he just looked clueless.
He just looked clueless. Yeah,
he looked like if they all of a sudden threw us in to the fire, what would happen?
What does that tell you about Levis? How behind must Levis be? He must be bad.
Yeah,
he must be bad.
I'm not sure what's going on there.
Because Willis has not impressed.
Well, he's terrible.
Ever.
He's a terrible quarterback.
Last year and this year.
Yep.
Well, Levis might be in a situation. My guess would be if Tannehill's ankle, I think he suffered an ankle sprain.
He's going to be out for a
Tannehill's
while.
ankle is so bad that he's going to miss games. I wouldn't doubt that they vault Levis over Willis, much like the Browns vaulted P.J. Walker over DTR. Mm-hmm. Like when they see a performance that bad, they go, hey, who's on the practice squad? Let's bring him up.
Mm-hmm. No, I think.
But hey, big win. We don't have the music from Cakes, but you got to play the music throughout the show. It's a Victory Monday.
Levis is still hurt, by the way, I think. So maybe that's the reason. Yeah.
Victory Monday, and you're at 3-3, and it feels good to get a win, regardless of how it looked when you've lost 3 in a row. You start the season 2-0, and then you lose 3. You expected to lose to the Bills. You expected to lose to the Eagles.
The only one
that Bears loss was tough. So at least this maybe gets the taste out of your mouth. And if you want to look ahead, you have a Giants team that can't do anything offensively.
Can't score.
They had Tyrod Taylor back there last night. Now, their defense played much better against the Bills last night, and they had a chance potentially to win the game. But very winnable game, and you can get to above 500.
Yeah. I mean, I'll pick us. Doesn't mean we'll win. What's Jones's story?
Neck injury.
So he's just out for a while?
Well, I don't know.
My guess is he'd
for a
be
while,
back.
but he was. I mean, they're not going to mess around with that.
Mm-hmm. He was on the sideline yesterday.
So, I mean, he always scares
chewing
you.
his gum.
But, I mean, at the beginning of the year in the offseason, I picked us to beat the Giants both times. I just feel like you have to. So, but they can win. They can lose them. I mean, Daniel Jones has looked like a Pro Bowler against us in years past.
Yeah.
But I'm going to pick him.
But, hey, kudos again to Washington's
against.
defense. If you want to chime in, you can call us on the MGM National Harbor Listener Lines at 800-636-1067. They did allow 402 yards. So Ritter racked up a bunch of yards. Mm-hmm. However, turnovers. They forced turnovers. Jamin Davis with the game-clinching interception.
Huge play by him.
Maybe hooked the receiver, but that's okay.
Sorry, huge play by him.
Made a big play, his first career interception. Three interceptions overall.
I thought St. Just had the other one, but the official called it the other way. Tie goes to the Falcon.
Yeah.
I mean, they should have had 4, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
I really do
on
think
the pass to London.
I think he had it 60-40, 70-30, but whatever. They gave it to him, so you can't win that. Yeah.
But St. Just had another big one in the end zone. That was big.
It's
a horrible decision
I
by
don't know
Ritter.
why he threw it.
Yeah.
That was a hope and a prayer. But again,
was that on a third down play or fourth?
He was pressured.
Was that on a fourth down?
I mean,
play?
he was pressured.
I don't think
there.
it was fourth down. I think it was third down, if I remember correctly.
Okay.
But hey, Jamin Davis is a guy who has caught a lot of flack.
He's getting better.
Rookie season was terrible. Got better his second season. He finishes the game with the sack and the key interception. Now, his sack was one of those ones where Ritter's running a bootleg and decides to run for it, and he ran out of bounds like a half yard short of the marker.
Doesn't matter.
It's a sack.
It counts pressure. It's pressure. Like Chase had some pressures, but he couldn't close the deal. How about Casey Toohill? Casey Toohill had burst on 2 plays where he just closed on the quarterback. So impressive.
Yeah.
And Toohill has impressed at times. I did not know he had that extra gear, though. And that was really, really cool to see. So they got contributions from a lot of people. Obviously, not a pretty win, but there were moments there where you felt pretty darn good about it. So,
and you had balance.
It's a step in the right direction.
They've won games where they've had balance. So we can say Bieniemy called a good first half, not a great second half, whatever. 22 rushes, 23 passes.
Yeah. And look,
when they've lost the balance of the games that they've lost. Now, some of that is because of game situation. They've been behind.
Trying to milk the clock there. I don't know. I don't put a lot of stock in all that, the balance stuff. But whatever.
They got a lead, too. I'll put some stock in that. They got a lead early in the game.
They had a big lead, so that's when you can have balance. They had a big lead, so then they didn't need to really throw that much. Although I would have liked to see them maybe throw a little early. they get predictable. The problem is that they're up 2 touchdowns, and then when they're getting those possessions, they just got so predictable.
Mm-hmm. And it got McLaurin involved early. I think he had 4 or 5 catches in the first quarter.
What happened to Dotson? I thought Dotson never dropped the ball. He's dropping balls every week now. I love him. I love him.
Well,
but he has not had a great season.
That was his only target of the game.
Yeah.
They simply will not throw to him. I don't know if it's because he's not open or he's just not in the game plan.
He runs great routes. I don't know.
Yesterday was a McLaurin day.
It was McLaurin and Samuel.
Yeah. And he is a spark. It's very cool to see when he gets involved. You just have good vibes when Terry gets involved. So.
But the way I look at it is, I mean, you can kind of grade how you look, but when you go on the road, it's not easy. I mean, just look at what happened yesterday with good teams going on the road and losing. So you go on the road and you get a win. I don't care really how you do it, especially when you're battling for a wild card. A win's a win, in my opinion. That's the way I look at it.
That's a big win. It's a big
and
win.
We will be talking NFL throughout the show. You mentioned teams on the road, but no more undefeated teams. 6 weeks in, the 72 Dolphins can already celebrate.
Because the
6
Niners.
weeks, no undefeated teams.
Well, the Niners got screwed there with the injuries there.
Niners lose.
Niners were
and
bad.
They missed a potential game-winning field goal, but they weren't good, and the Browns have a really good defense. And then the Eagles lose.
Yeah.
Jalen Hurts had 3 interceptions.
And a critical
The Jets' defense is legit. Aaron Rodgers was already on the sideline throwing the football. Looks like he's walking around.
Unbelievable.
So maybe the defense keeps him in the playoff picture. They got the identical record
wacky
as
procedure
the Commanders.
they did, but it looks like they barely touched that Achilles because you should not be up and throwing like that like
soon,
a month after. I mean, it's crazy. No brace, no nothing.
Right.
Crazy.
800.
I actually think he might come back.
Yeah.
Well, let's see where they are in the playoff picture.
He clearly didn't have, and they talk about, he didn't have the traditional procedure.
Right.
They did some unique procedure.
Right.
Commanders improved to 3-3 with the win in Atlanta over the Falcons. Giants next. Let's get into
the horrible Giants.
Ron Rivera, because we spent a lot of time last week talking about Rivera and his sideline demeanor and his halftime speech or lack thereof against the Bears.
I wasn't paying attention.
Did you notice a difference?
A couple times I did.
I actually did, but I wasn't paying super attention to it. I was more locked in on the game. And I was getting a lot of tweets from people saying, you notice Ron's not folding his arms as much, and he's looking more animated on the sideline.
After that third down defensive stop, he got all fired up.
Right.
I noticed it that time, and there was one other time I noticed that he was chirping at the refs.
Yeah.
So,
I think he always chirps at the refs.
That's kind of the one thing he does.
I was trying to pay attention to that more than I usually do.
Yeah, I was paying attention less to it, but I got a lot of tweets from people saying, Ron definitely listens to you guys because he has a different demeanor.
He looked a little more animated. The one thing, though, that I think about when I watch these things is they only choose to show the coach like handful of times,
For sure.
5 or 6 times a game. Now, they did show Arthur Smith a little bit more, but he was constantly making bozo decisions.
He was giving great TV.
Yeah, I mean, he was making decisions on 4th down to go for it, going for it on 2. He was, calling late timeouts,
also, he's so
rolling his
great
eyes,
at showing reactions.
Yeah, and he's an offensive play caller, by the way. Yeah. He calls the plays.
He calls the plays.
The TV cameras love to show a head coach with the sheet
they show
calling plays.
A lot.
They love to show. That's like one of their favorites. That's like when you said that news crews, when they cover radio, they love to show the radio dials. On TV, they love to show
the play callers.
Yeah,
they do.
I like to see that.
And that was an issue for the Falcons yesterday at multiple times because they had multiple delay of games. One after they had spiked the ball to stop the clock, which that should never, ever, ever, ever happen 100% of the time. Never.
So I don't know if Ron's demeanor truly changed or they're just, look, when you catch only 5 or 6 times of him showing, sometimes he might have his hands like this. Sometimes
I thought he looked a little more into it.
He did look a little more
less
fired.
Passive. I don't care about the do your job shtick. I think that's all kind of silly. Because now he tried to act like he was vindicated. We did our job, but we just have to pay attention to the details. Like,
maybe that'll be the new sign.
Yeah, pay attention to the details.
Right.
Yeah, I don't know. Whatever.
800-636-1067.
Gotta win. That's
in the end, yes, it's all about winning, and they got to win. They're 3-3, and it's a road win. And I was telling Jason, when you look at the league, there's so much mediocrity in the league.
Yep.
I just looked at the standings. Out of 32
JP,
teams,
you've seen this the last, I don't know, 10 years.
But just out of 32 teams, there are 9 teams that are 3-3. The Chargers are 2-2.
Mm-hmm.
So basically a third of the league is 500 right now. And then if you add in the teams that are 3-2 or 2-3, it's legitimately half the league because that's 6 more. So half the league is basically 500.
Good. I mean, the NFL loves this. It means that every game has playoff implications. I mean, coming down the stretch if it stays that way.
But what the Washington Commanders have done this season so far, outside of the Bears game, is they've beaten the bad teams. They've won the winnable games. And look, they lost to 2 pretty good teams.
They got to make up for that. If they intend to make any waves this season, they got to make up for that Bears loss. You got to find somebody on there that you thought they were going to lose to, Seattle, somebody. I mean, I know we picked the Jets. That's different now without Aaron Rodgers, but you got to find somebody in there to beat.
Yes, got to steal one.
That Bears loss was really, really, really bad.
Yeah.
But it was important to get back on the winning
who knows?
streak.
The way the league is setting up this year, maybe 8 wins does get you that 7th wild card spot.
I don't know. Maybe.
I mean, I would have bet against it, but I mean, the way that it's, the standings look now, you might have a team that's below 500 that gets in.
Maybe, but you don't even want to go there because it is week to week. You have no idea what's going to show up next week. Especially with a guy like Daniel Jones who has owned us. Let's be honest, he has owned us.
Yes, it's hard to be too critical of the defense because they did force 3 turnovers.
Yeah,
and they win the game there. Look, got a red zone interception, Jamin Davis's interception to seal the win. 3 turnovers forced. But watching them, why aren't they getting more pressure? Ritter dropped back a ton.
47 times.
I don't know. Can I see the pressure stat? The ESPN box doesn't have that.
I know they put in quarterback hits, but they didn't have that many quarterback hits if you just want to look at QB hits.
I know, but let's just look at, I know Chase made some impactful plays, but his box score is empty. So I need to see whoever compiles the pressure stats. I know PFF does that.
Regardless of stats, it just doesn't feel like they put enough pressure, and you don't expect a team like the Falcons to roll up 400 yards on you.
Yeah, but we held them to 16, which is what you'd expect.
Well, also, the Commanders' offense was really bad in the second half. So they were going 3-4 plays, max, maybe 5, and then the defense was right back out there. So Atlanta just seemed like they had the ball the entire second half.
Well, I mean, I don't have it in front of me, but they must have run 25 more plays than we did, right? I think they did. They ran 79 plays, we ran 50.
Yeah.
So I mean, they had the ball.
That certainly didn't help.
30 more plays than we did.
Yeah. So they're going to rack up some yards.
Yeah.
800-636-1067.
But it was a team win all the way around. The Crowder punt return was one of the biggest we've had in years.
Oh, yeah. The field position game was in favor of the Commanders.
Who was the little guy that would run around and he got stabbed? Who was the little guy that we had 10 years ago? You remember his name?
Brandon Banks.
Brandon Banks.
Oh, good pull.
We haven't had anybody since Brandon Banks, and he wasn't even that great.
Right.
But he had at least the potential to break one. Dax Milne's not doing that.
No.
He's just not doing that.
That was a huge play that set up that was that the second touchdown?
Honestly, I don't know the difference in the subtleties of it, but I'd get the ball in Crowder's hands more often. Why not have him return kickoffs?
Well, there are no kickoff returns.
Yeah.
There's 1 or 2. But why have Gibby do it? Give it to Crowder the few times that you do return one.
I don't have to ask Kyle that. I
wonder what the difference is.
Right now, the Commanders' defense through 6 games is 29th in the NFL in yards allowed per game.
They must have improved on points, though, with the 16.
Yes.
Where they're giving up 377 yards per game, gave up over 400 to the Falcons, and they are 30th in points per game. They now have allowed 29.3
That
points
only
per
moved
game.
them up 1 or 2 points per game? That's crazy. Doesn't even make sense. Does that include yesterday's?
Yeah, 6 games in.
That's crazy.
Well, no, it's almost 3 points.
Because they were 32?
Yeah.
All right. You think it would be a little bit better than that. But I do think the defense will improve as the season progresses. They weren't as bad as they showed in those first 5 or 6 games. They just weren't. They will get better. It's interesting that Manny Forbes, I don't believe, saw the field. I don't even believe he played special teams. It's probably
I think Quan
a good
Martin
thing.
saw the field more.
Probably a good thing. Let him learn, whatever. Let him figure it out. Whatever it takes to win. I don't care. But, it's eventually you got to get him back out there. I don't know if next week will be the week. Maybe they'll bring him in slowly now. Maybe he'll play 10 plays, 20 plays versus playing a whole game. Bring him in slowly.
Well, you can play him next week because there's no one really that scares you for the Giants.
You mean like a receiver type?
Yeah.
Well, maybe, but I don't know.
The Giants leaned. Barkley was out obviously forever with the ankle, and they leaned on him heavy. They think they gave him the ball 25 times running it, and they targeted him a bunch. That's all they want to do is give the ball to Barkley.
I'm in no rush to get him out. I just want to win. So I don't care if you play Danny Johnson. I don't care who you play.
I think that's where Ron's at. He's not worried about the future.
Yeah.
I actually think Ron does care about his job and is fighting for his job, because if he wasn't fighting for his job, he'd play Emmanuel Forbes. He's going to play the best guys. That's why he doesn't care. He's not playing any of these young guys.
Mm-hmm. Well, overall, I'm very, very, very pleased with that win. And now you have a little life again. Doesn't mean you're going to win against the Giants, but you have a little life. All right, let's bang out some of these calls if people want to chime in. I thought it was a total team effort, but there are definitely a lot of things to improve on, for sure. Let's go to Mike in Solomon's Island, 800-636-1067. Play the music again, Valdez. You're played 100 times today. You get a dub, you got to enjoy it. They're hard to come by. Mike, what's up?
Hey, Mike.
What's up, Jones? Good morning to y'all.
Hey, Mike.
Thank you.
How you doing? Yeah,
good.
I agree 100% with Lurch about how hard it is to get a road win. I'll take a 2-0 win.
Mm-hmm.
But you notice inserting Danny Johnson, how better the defense have gotten.
Mm-hmm.
Man, I tell you, if Jack Del Rio don't muddy the waters by sending blitz with a better back end with Danny Johnson, then he got to go, because Todd Bowles sent smoke all day. Even the Giants muddied the water with Allen last night. Had him jumping all over the place. Took them all elbows to the fourth quarter before they scored. So we got to get some pressure on the quarterback. Because that's what happened with Purdy, and that's what happened with Jalen Hurts. That pressure. We got to get it. And I promise you we'll be better. Thanks, Young.
All right, thank you, buddy.
I don't see enough pressure coming from the Commanders, and I kind of expected them to throw more blitzes this week just against Ritter.
How many did they actually have? Do you know?
I don't know the number of blitzes, but
they had a few.
It didn't seem like a ton.
And I think that by bringing that fifth guy up in the box, that seemed to free up Barton, because Barton had his best day.
Mm-hmm.
He had some impactful plays. Davis obviously had a very, very good day. Maybe had the biggest play of his career. So I like what they did defensively. Defensively, it was a big step up from the week before. Big step up.
I thought Ritter looked pretty good in the first half.
He looked okay.
Obviously, in the second half, he made some horrible decisions, especially that third one in the end zone. But he was targeting Drake London, getting the ball to him, some tight throws. Mm-hmm. He missed that one to Hodge down the stretch on the
flea flicker?
The running back option. Yeah, the flea flicker. But I thought for the most part he was pretty good in the first half. But
he hurt us in the first half.
Horrible decisions in the second.
Let's go to Bill. White Plains, 800-636-1067 if you want to chime in. It's a Victory Monday. Let's talk about it.
Good morning.
What's up, Bill?
Good morning, John. How y'all doing this morning?
Well, thank you.
Good. On the topic you're on right now, so here's the thing that I see as a problem. Those 3 interceptions were gifts from Ritter. I mean, just horrible, horrible decisions. And the problem I have is with Jack Del Rio, because you give up 402 yards to Atlanta. That's just not acceptable. They were running the ball up and down the field on us, and other than those 3 horrible decisions by Ritter, we could have lost that game by 14 points. And I put the blame on Jack Del Rio. I mean, this is several weeks in a row now that our vaunted defensive line has not been really getting any pressure on the other team's quarterback, not really stopping the run. So I would think, as y'all were just talking about, we need to have more blitz packages to get some pressure on the other team's quarterback, and I think Jack Del Rio needs to go.
I thought Jack did pretty well. All right, thank you. I thought he did pretty well. He held him to 16. They were, in control of the game for most of it, and they had to keep him out of the end zone in the second half, and they basically did that.
To be fair, I think they did a decent job stopping the run.
Yeah, they did. Darn right they did.
Well,
they only averaged like 3.7 a game. Bijan did nothing.
I'm just combating him. He said that they couldn't stop the run. They did.
No, they did a solid job against a team that's excellent. at running the football.
Algier was 13 carries for 51 yards, so right around 4 yards a carry. Bijan had 13 carries for 37 yards. That's less than 3 yards a carry. Ritter had a couple of runs, but overall, they did a good job stopping the run. If I'm the Falcons, though, they are a weird team, right? If I was a Falcons fan, I don't know if I would go to Heineke, but
well, the last
Ritter,
thing that Arthur
like
Smith
Ritter.
wants is to have Ritter drop back that many times. He does not want that. So if they had the lead, if the game was a little bit closer, then obviously they would have been running the ball a little bit more. But since they were down for most of the game, he had to get them back in. I mean, down 24-16, you got to throw the ball.
Seems like they forgot about Pitts, too. Because Pitts, early in the game, he kind of flashed.
Yeah.
Definitely.
And then I don't remember him catching the ball in the
But
second
I don't know
half.
how much is that Washington
Maybe
making adjustments.
Right.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I
They
don't
might
know
have done
enough
something
about
to take him out. I mean, London, they threw to London all day.
Yeah, he was targeted 12 times.
Yeah.
Yeah, he looked really good. London looked really good.
Mm-hmm.
But, overall, it just, again, I'm just very pleased with it. I was really pleased with how, the sacks suck. But I'll be honest with you, 2 of the sacks were actually beneficial because if he throws them away, the clock stops.
Clock stops, right.
So they were actually, they were ugly, but they actually helped. I did not understand why we punted with 15 seconds left on the game clock or the play clock. The play clock is running.
Yeah.
The game clock is running, obviously. And they punt with 15 seconds. What are you doing? We could have
Drain it down to 4.
What are we doing? So, and then the play before where Howe got sacked, he snapped it with 6 seconds left.
Mm-hmm.
We're trying to squeeze the clock there. We could have squeezed another 21 seconds, and it could have mattered.
Yeah.
Maybe
a veteran, maybe just not looking at the play clock at that time. A veteran
guess.
might, but maybe not a young quarterback. It's a good question.
Definitely the punting one was absurd. Mm-hmm. There was no reason to rush a punt off. It was. I'll never forget. I think it was 3:16 left when he punted. Could have been 3, and then you would have wiped out a play with the 2-minute timeout. All that stuff.
If you just look at the total number comparison, the Falcons had 25 first downs. Washington only had 13. Mm-hmm. Washington was only 2 for 10 on third down. They were outgained by about 200 yards, 402 to 193.
We were really bad on third down.
Penalties, they had Washington had 6, Atlanta had 4. But the big deal, we already talked about it. When you win the turnover battle by 3, you're going to win a lot of games.
It's hard to lose.
Yeah, and you're not going to rack up as many yards, too, when you start a drive on your opponent's 11-yard line.
Yeah, true.
You win the field position game. You start on the 11. There's a touchdown. The other one, they started at the 48. Mm-hmm. So 2 of their touchdown drives, it's not like they went 75 yards.
Mm-hmm.
If Hal could give me 150 yards and 3 touchdowns every week, I'll take it.
With no turnovers?
I'll take it all day. All right, let's go to Peter. Peter was at the game in Atlanta. Hey, Peter.
Hey, how's it going?
What's up?
What's up? I heard there were a ton of Washington fans. At least that's what Magic said.
There was a ton of what now?
Of Washington fans at the game.
Oh, yeah. There's a lot of burgundy and gold in Atlanta. There's a lot of burgundy and gold. Atlanta's a big transplant city anyway. So, and the Falcons are not the biggest thing here.
Mm-hmm.
The biggest thing here is the Bulldogs.
Right,
actually.
Georgia.
Right.
Georgia Bulldogs is number 1 by far.
Right.
By a landslide. So there was a lot of Washington, a lot of Commanders gear, a lot of Redskins gears, a lot of Washington here. It was great. Fun place to watch a game though. Better than FedEx, I got to say.
Oh, for sure.
But really fun place to watch a game. Game was good. One thing I did notice, and I didn't know what you guys' take was on it, because I to be honest, I haven't gone to many games. I always watch on television, but Chase Young seemed a little lethargic to me.
Huh. Somebody was saying that somebody was saying they could see him kind of like trailing off at the end of each play, like almost like giving up,
He didn't power through every play. There was one play, I can't remember the exact down and quarter, but he had his hands on Ritter, and it's like he gave up on it.
He made a great play, but didn't finish it.
I mean, he
made a great play, but he didn't finish it.
It was an outside rush, and Ritter stepped up. I mean, yes, he got his hand on him, and I think he actually got his hand on his towel. He pulled his towel.
Should have made the play. Put it this way. Casey Tuhill closed it out, made the play.
Casey Tuhill also had a play where he was unblocked.
True, but I'm just saying.
But remember the criticism we heard.
If you give Chase Young a play unblocked,
remember the
I think he's
criticism
gonna
we
have a
heard
chance.
on Chase earlier in the year where he kind of gives up on plays.
That's what somebody said.
So maybe after that initial burst, if he doesn't get to him, he just kind of he tails off a little bit.
Maybe, I don't know.
But I noticed that a couple times too. I don't have no idea if other players do that because I wasn't watching the other guys. But I did notice that with Chase.
Look, they did enough to get the dub, so this guy right here is happy. It's a whole new week now against the Giants.
And now
whole
you're playing
new week.
You have to say you're playing the Giants that can't score. Who knows if Jones is going to play?
I mean, you should feel confident, but you have no idea what team's going to show up. Is that team going to show up? Take the ball away 3 times, or is it going to be the team that showed up against the Bears?
Yeah.